Welcome, everyone. We are suffering Smallville. This is going to be season 2, episode 10. It's called Skinwalker. I'm Peter, and that's Connor. Yes, so this is the episode that introduces the caves. I don't remember much, but I remembered the caves been a thing.
Yeah, these are pretty important for a few seasons now. I feel like this is it until the fortress.
Yeah,
like
that
pretty
sounds
important
right.
up until that point.
And then he has the fortress, so it just kind of shifts to being the fortress.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, plot of this episode is that Luther Corp are trying to build a new industrial complex, which is going to create like 1,000 jobs.
They keep telling us that, yeah.
Which actually sounds good, to be honest.
That sounds like a lot of jobs, especially somewhere the size of Smallville.
But it's on like a Native American like site that's, particularly those caves underground that are have got cave paintings, ancient, say ancient, 500 years old, they say they are, important to their heritage, all that stuff. And we basically get introduced to the main Native American guy, who's this older dude who is trying to protect them, and his very attractive granddaughter, who's about Clark's age, who dresses like Lara Croft, that Clark stumbles into. Well, I say stumbles. So how does Clark
falls off the bike?
Yeah. So when we cut to Clark and Pete at the start of the episode, and this may be the only scene Pete's in the entire thing.
It is. Yep.
Is they're racing on dirt bikes just casually around the place, and obviously the only reason why they're doing this is because at the end of the scene, Clark's going to hit something and go flying off his bike and fall through the ground into this cave. It is quite funny, to be honest. It's a funny moment.
And also, now that you mention it, this is why they wrote Pete out of the show, because they have nothing for him already.
That's true. Well, yeah, I think that's true. Joe, it partly is. It's because they created Chloe, right? And Chloe kind of fills this overlap between kind of the best friend, but also kind of the Lois, because we don't have a Lois for now. So because of that, it kind of leaves Pete with like less to do.
It is, and then in the not too distant future, they're going to introduce a Lois, which means we definitely don't need Chloe and Pete.
Yeah, for sure. He's gone by the time they introduce Lois, though. I think he leaves in season 3.
I think it. Yeah, but doesn't Lois come right? It starts. Is it not season 3 or start season 4?
It's 4. I think Pete's already gone. I think Pete's left before the end of season 3, and then season 4 is when Lois comes in.
I suspect they know they're bringing Lois in season 4 when they're getting rid of Pete.
Probably. But I mean, we were saying almost every review, I think, how little Pete's had to do as a character. He doesn't really serve much of it. He's just kind of around in certain scenes, other than the episode where he found out and he actually got something to do there. So
yeah, I think you had one episode since where it was like he knew, and it was a big deal because he knew, and this is dangerous now.
It was the very next episode because he was helping with the Red Kryptonite stuff.
That was it, yeah.
But anyway, so Clark falls through the ground into these caves, and these cave paintings. So he meets Kyla, who's the granddaughter, and she's like, "Look at these cave paintings; are my family's heritage." And they're drawings of a man who fell out of the sky in a rain of fire. Sounds a lot like a meteor storm, and
has the strength of 10 men.
10 men's underselling it a bit, but fair enough. And then also just adds on, and he can shoot fire from his eyes. Oh, who does this sound like?
And suspiciously has an S on his chest.
On all these drawings, yeah. So we're led to believe here that a Kryptonian landed on Earth 500 years ago, and these Native Americans saw him use his powers, and that's why these paintings exist. They talk about the return of someone, someone else coming down of their kind, which obviously...
I think they're expecting this, like, more or less the same, like a reincarnation of the same person. That's what they seem to think of it.
Yeah.
They're sort of saying, the guy, Naman, he says he's going to return. I assume, let's take it on good faith that it's an actual Kryptonian that came and visited Smallville.
Well, we kind of know it is, to an extent, because we find out later on the fact that this tribe have the ability to turn into animals. They're skinwalkers. she just casually mentions that, oh yeah, 500 years ago when this fire came down from the sky, it brought with it green meteor rock, and it created the Skinwalkers. That's when this all started. So they basically retconned into this Native American history that meteor rock created their superpowers, generations ago and generations ago.
Yeah, which, fine, I guess kryptonite powers can be passed down now. But whatever, let's brush over that real briefly. Let's not think too hard on that, because that will raise a lot of questions. Good faith, there was a Kryptonian. I don't suspect the Kryptonian meant that he personally was going to return. More like, there'll probably be someone that comes back. So one of my people will be back, and they misinterpreted it.
Very possibly, very possibly. But also,
they definitely make this. This is how Jor-El knows about Earth and why Smallville's a safe place.
Oh yeah, I bet they do say that. Yeah,
I don't remember this, but they definitely do.
Well, not to get any spoilers here, but I do vividly remember that there is a flashback episode that shows Jor-El visiting Smallville before Clark is born.
Why do I not remember this?
I remember this. So you might be right. The reason why he maybe visits Smallville is because this, there's a record of these caves or this visit from whoever it was before.
Yeah. Like, we already visited there. People are familiar with us. You'll be treated like a god. It'll be great.
Yeah. Just for the record, I don't like the idea that Kryptonians came to Earth before Clark.
Yeah.
One of the things I especially hate is in this episode, Kyla says, "Oh yeah," and the prophecy here in the rest of the world says that him and this other guy will be one will be represent good, that's Superman, one will represent bad, that's Lex, and they'll be warring for all the time or whatever, right? And I hate this idea that he's destined to be Superman. It completely robs it of all of the qualities that I like about it, which is the same reason why I don't like the fact that Jor-El's been to Earth and visited Smallville. I like the idea that Clark just was lucky to be found by two good people, and those two good people raised him to know right from wrong, and all of the things that he goes on to do is because he makes those decisions, not because he's destined, because it's fate. I hate it.
I'm going to take a somewhat middle ground approach. I don't hate the idea of maybe Jor-El specifically visiting Smallville. I don't like so much, but the idea of, hey, there are Kryptonian records of Earth. The people have visited there in the past. Okay. The idea that Jor-El chooses to send him to Earth because, hey, we know there are good people there. I'm kind of okay with that, because that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to become Superman, right? That's just a father choosing somewhere good for his son. I can kind of get behind that.
Yeah, but if a Kryptonian actually... Okay, fine, if they've scanned Earth and know it's habitable and whatnot, but if a Kryptonian actually went to Earth, right, and realized, oh shit, we have all these superpowers here, why wouldn't they go back? Why wouldn't there be just mass...
Okay, but isn't there a lot of versions in... That's exactly why Jor-El sends him there, in that, hey, he's going to be safe there because nothing's going to hurt him. And if he's the only person from our planet who survives, he better damn well be safe.
I don't think I've read a version of that where they've visited... at least if it's Jor-El himself, it at least makes more sense why not everyone has went, because he's the only one who knows about it. But I'm just imagining some random Kryptonian 500 years ago going to Earth and being like, holy shit, I'm super strong, I'm invulnerable, I can fly.
I think in some of those versions that I'm thinking of, it's not specifically that any Kryptonians have visited, but more, Jor-El's run some tests, and he because he's a scientist, has realized the yellow sun will have those effects on a Kryptonian. No.
Yeah, Jor-El knows that he's going to have abilities, right? That's almost always the case, where he
Yeah, so the idea that he's sending there because, hey, he'll be safe there because he'll be invulnerable. The idea that it's not too much of a stretch for me to go, this is from some level of first-hand research.
Okay. I'm just not super fond of it. In the same way that, every time you reveal another Kryptonian that somehow survived, you're, diluting the last son of Krypton thing,
That is fair. I think there is a line, and it is a line that definitely depends on just the other factors in the whatever the material is.
Yeah.
I think the idea when it plays into this is a prophecy now, and this is destiny that must become Superman. Way too far, way over the line.
Yeah. I hate all this destiny crap about predicting his future. There are like foreshadowing things you can do that I will be on board with, and the show, has occasionally had them, and there's at least one decent one that I think happens in season 3, which we'll talk about when we get there. But this idea that him and Lex are destined to be these adversaries and it's all written in stone already, like, I hate that. No. Like, life is nothing but the consequences of the choices we make, and I hate anything that says that we're just on like a fixed path. The only time that I can pivot from that is when we're doing a time travel story and we're starting to say, well, okay, these things have already happened and we might be able to change by going back.
That's different. Yeah.
But when you're actually just talking about the future and you're saying, oh, we're destined for this, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's why for me there is a strict line between, maybe not my favorite interpretation, but I'm okay with the idea of potentially past Kryptonians and there being a record of Kryptonians here in the past in these caves. I can kind of get, not necessarily on board with it, but I can be okay with that. But then that stretching into, there's going to be a return, one's going to fall from the sky, he's going to be the savior, there's going to be this balance with the good and bad. It's way too far.
There are some versions of Superman where Krypton had outlawed space travel, and that would explain why everyone's not going to the planet that makes them super strong, I suppose. So
that's true. Yeah, that is some takes.
Yeah, so there are versions of these things. Like
that definitely feels like the take of a writer trying to explain why Kryptonians didn't visit Earth all the time and get powers, though.
Yeah, they'd have all moved. Like, why would they stay in Krypton where they're all weak? Go to Earth.
They'd have, not even specifically Earth, they'd have all spread to just various yellow suns, right?
Yeah, you would think so. But regardless, in the context of Smallville, like, I was really getting at the destiny stuff in the caves, and like, like, this is all predetermined, all that bollocks. So yes, Clark wants to help her. Of course, he sets up dinner with his parents and her grandfather, and the entire time when Clark and her are looking at each other, they're just making the dreamy eyes. They're basically like banging in their heads.
She's just looking over, doing the lip bite. Like, want some of that, fanboy.
Yeah. And then when he takes her to the barn afterwards, he's like, hey, do you want to look at my telescope? Luckily for him, she doesn't say yes, because, she'd be like, why is it pointed at a bedroom across the way?
It's definitely still pointed at Lana's house, even if she doesn't live there anymore. It's definitely still pointed there. It's sentimental reasons.
Yeah, maybe you got lucky. Maybe another young hot chick moved in. Because remember, Nell left, so this house presumably is up for sale or has been sold to someone else.
Yeah, that would stand to reason.
Yeah.
Someone must want to buy farmland in Smallville.
I imagine so. Maybe the Kent should have expanded, got some more land.
I mean, they can barely work the land they have got.
Clark can do it all in 10 minutes in the morning. Come on now.
That's true. But it has been like a recurring element that they are drowning in debt.
Admittedly, if the IRS ever like show up and say, wait, how are you like producing this much produce when it's only like you two working the farm, they're going to have a hard time explaining how Clark's doing most of the manpower.
Yeah, they're just really efficient, guys.
Oh dear. So yeah, we get so Lana shows up though during this scene, and Kyla is out of her way to do that thing when you're watching a movie, right? The example in my head that I'm thinking of, and this is the least like cheesy way in my head that I can think of, is there's a scene in Aliens, right, where Ripley's like, hey, I need to know how to use the pulse rifle, right? I need some training in weapons, and Hicks is like, okay, that makes sense, we're going to do this. And it makes sense that he's got his arms around her, showing her way to like hold things properly, because it's a practical thing. He's like putting her hands in the right place, right? And you get variations on this in a lot of things, usually a lot cheesier than that, where the man or the woman will be behind the other one and they'll sort of put their arms around them, they put their hands in the right place, so whatever they're holding or doing.
Now that I think about it, there are a lot of versions of that are at a shooting range, where they're doing the holding up the handgun for the first time.
So, and it's this romantic moment. So here, Kyla wants to show Clark some stars. So she puts her arms around him and holds up his hand. And he's not even putting his finger out to point. He's just kind of like, his hand's just kind of limp.
Just hanging there, it'll be fine.
But she's sort of doing that as if to say, I'm going to point at it with your hand. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you could just point at it yourself.
Hey, it clearly works because he points a star out later.
I mean, I get that she just wants to hold his hand, and then at the end of the little thing she says, she just holds his hand. Like, that's where his hand ends up.
It just drops down, and he just keeps it there. He does an awkward little blush sort of look.
Yeah,
he doesn't blush, but he has that sort of expression.
Yes. So they're both very horny for each other. But then Lana shows up, and it's all very awkward because Clark clearly has a type. So these two women are looking at each other, almost like they're looking at a mirror. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize you had company. Yeah, this is Kyla. You two would like each other. Oh, I bet they would, Clark. So Clark wanted Lana to ask her new daddy to...
Who is confirmed as new daddy.
He's confirmed in this episode as daddy. Although he says...
After Clark has already asked for this favor, I believe. So
Lana gets the ball rolling on this favor, and then later on, he's got the test results back. He definitely has breast cancer. No, I mean, he got the test results back. He's definitely her father. To which he says, "I'm not ready. I've not earned that title yet. But I'll be in your life, and we'll see where it goes." And all I could think was, you want to be called Daddy so bad. He wants to be called Daddy. See, so what he should have done
when we're watching this.
Instead of like saying, sitting her down saying, "I've got the test results back," he should have jumped into the room going, "Who's your daddy?" That should have been how he told her.
I would just like to point out to all the viewers, these daddy jokes are exactly what he was making during the entire time this scene was playing out. This is just a repeat, and it's awful both times.
But it's funnier to me now because you having to listen to it a second time, it makes it more hilarious to me.
Yeah, I bet it does.
So, just to stick on Lana and Chloe as well, I'm just going to bring in here for a second because Chloe does
she has like 2 scenes.
Well, she has a scene with Clark at one point where she's doing some research about skinwalkers, and that's what sort of brings that into the conversation. But she has a scene with Lana where they're in the Talon together, and they're talking about all this, peaceful protesting they're doing for the caves. They've got signs.
Oh, hey, isn't it weird that Clark's an activist now?
They're like, yeah, why is he doing all this? Oh, it could be something to do with the babe that's like totally involved in all this.
I love how Lana's like, yeah, it's the girl. He doesn't give a shit about the caves. He kind of actually does because they're about him. But
yeah, but there's more to it.
Like, he doesn't give a shit about the caves. It's
funny. They get together and bond about how the fact that they're both at least a little bit jealous of the fact that Clark's found someone new.
Which is really awkward because Chloe should be allowed to be publicly jealous because she's the one who tried to actually go out with him, and and then essentially got turned down and kind of just put aside. She's allowed to be. Lana is just being jealous because Lana.
Well, she feels the jealousy. I believe it, but
no, I believe that she feels it, but it's a lot more hypocritical with her compared to Chloe.
Yes, and we'll talk about this separately, but because Clark's allowed to be a bit more open with Kyla, we'll talk about why later. Lana can sense, he's very open with Kyla in a way that he can never be with any of us. I guess he was just waiting for the right person, and it's like, well. What's funny though is last episode we were cracking some jokes about how spectacularly the Chloe and Lana scene failed the Bechdel test. This one also fails it because they're talking about Clark. And I wasn't even going to mention it, but what made me laugh is that halfway through the scene, the conversation out of nowhere turns to Whitney because Chloe's like, "Hey, I saw that you wrote Whitney a letter. You left it on the table this morning," and I just started laughing because, like, oh wait, you were talking about one guy, and then you pivoted to now just talking about another guy.
There was nothing in between.
No, nothing in between. There was nothing after either. This was all the topic of conversation.
I'm pretty sure this is the only conversation in the episode that 2 women have with each other. Unless you count a wolf snarling at Martha.
No, I would not. I would not, no.
No, I would not either.
Even though we technically know that as a woman that's turned into a wolf, I would not count it, no.
I would also not count it, but on a
well, I'll put it this way. If she was in human form on top of the car, growling at Martha, I still wouldn't count that as a conversation.
Also fair.
Although, to be fair, it's not about a man, I guess, technically.
Yeah, it's about a cave. But the caves are about a man, so, I mean, I don't know.
The whole thing, yeah. It's a whole to do. So that's all there. And just to wrap up the Lana stuff, so at the end of the episode, obviously Kyla dies because Kyla found out most of Clark's secret, so she had to die. We'll talk about that, all the main plot stuff in a bit. But at the end of the episode, Lana shows up at the barn and she's sad. And Clark's like, why are you sad? Well, timing. The universe is in sync as it would happen, because just as he lost his new girlfriend that he was super into, which, by the way, I looked up the actress. It turns out she went on to be the star in the first Hatchet movie, and then she got recast in the second movie by Daniel Harris from the Halloween franchise. And she's popped up in various things. The only thing that stuck
I don't think she's I know, okay, she got recast, so it makes it sound like she's that bad. I don't think she's that bad an actress.
No. I just don't think she. I don't think she wanted to come back. I don't think it's because she was terrible in the first movie. But
because she's not. I mean, she's not amazing here, but no one in Smallville is. Nah, she's not terrible.
She's on par with
everyone else,
the other teenagers,
fine, yeah.
Quote unquote. But the only thing that stuck out is that there was photos in the search results of her with Bruce Willis, and they got their hands like around each other. So I think Bruce Willis dated her for a while.
It's a bit weird, but okay.
I assume it was a bit later than this, but yeah, I mean, obviously he's got a bit of an age difference on him versus her.
It is, but then again, I actually have no idea how old she is. Because obviously she's older than this character, right? By presumably quite a good few years.
I mean, I'll click her and fit. I've noticed that IMDb doesn't have birth dates for a lot of actors anymore. You have to go looking elsewhere for it. But
really?
Yeah, no, it doesn't say. Yeah, I think a lot of them are hiding it because reasons. But
I mean, you could Google it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
age.
It's not that important. But the point, let's just say she's 20 here. Yeah, might even be a bit older than that. But let's say she's 20. Bruce Willis at this point was probably in his mid-40s.
He's like 68 now, so minus like 20 odd years, right?
Yeah. So yeah, 40, 45-ish. Yeah, 46, something like
that. Yeah, 46, 47.
Yeah.
So yeah, that must be a good 20 odd years.
Yeah, I don't know when they dated though. There happened to be search results that had them with their arms around each other. But yeah, nothing to add there. Anyway, what I was getting at? Yeah, this final scene, Lana is upset. Clark asks why, and it's because Whitney's mum phoned her and told her that he is missing in action. Because for those of you who don't remember, Whitney ran off to join the military. That's what he did at the end of season 1. So Clark holds Lana in his arms as she cries her eyes out.
As much as we kind of gave them shit for, pivoting straight into Whitney talk after Clark talk, it did serve a purpose, which was so this scene had any sort of impact for. I mean, we kind of seen this show before. We know enough of where it's going. We would have remembered even after our lengthy gap, but it's solid, if not particularly compelling writing to have that in there, to remind it, to kind of just establish where things are. It's kind of Chekhov's gun, right? Essentially,
it's just designed to remind the audience of Whitney so that this end scene has context. I do think it might have been neater to have her writing a letter to him once or twice before this episode, just so it feels like more of a recurring thing. But
she makes it sound like I think she says they've been writing letters like every week.
Yeah, she says that, but this is the first you've heard of it, so it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, even in this episode, if you'd shown her writing the letter instead of just having Chloe just ask, be like, "Hey, I read your letter," which awkward. There are better ways to handle it.
Well, I don't think she read it. I think she just saw who it was to. I don't think she was that much of a dick.
No, I think she read it. I 100% believe that Chloe read the letter.
I mean, that's a dick move.
I agree, but I think
Is that journalistic side of her? She has to know everything.
I genuinely think that's Chloe's character. Is that she sees it there? She's like, "Ooh, I want to read this."
Okay. All right, so back to the main plot then. So the episode opened with the Native American guy telling the foreman, or the foreman tells the Native American guy off for hanging around the work site, and it sets up that he's here running the project. And then we get the scene before the opening titles is a wolf showing up. Although it's a white wolf, and to be honest, when the shot I saw of it, I went, "Oh, that's a nice little doggy." It didn't feel. But I was expecting crappy werewolf suit, and instead they've got just a dog.
Dog,
Yeah, who's growling and stuff. It is worth mentioning here, technically, for the rest of the episode, they say, oh, someone killed this foreman, and they're like, oh, eventually when Clark realizes there's a wolf involved, he's like, oh, this wolf killed the foreman. Technically, the wolf didn't kill the foreman. The wolf just growled and sort of scared them, and this foreman shot a flare after spilling gasoline everywhere because he was filling up his truck. And the flare came back down perfectly vertically and landed in the gasoline and just blew himself up.
Yeah, I would say manslaughter at best.
Yes, I would agree with that. I'm not saying the wolf wasn't acting threateningly, because it absolutely was. But
right, but there are multiple scenes where the wolf attacked people, and there is actually only one instance in the entire episode of the wolf attacking anyone, and it is one scratch on Lionel Luthor's cheek.
Yes, at the end of the episode, because when it quote-unquote attacks Martha, I think it's very clear she has no intention of actually hurting her. She's just trying to scare her, because she just leaves.
The wolf does not approach. We have a few shots from like wolf POV to show that it's there, but the wolf does not approach Martha until Martha is in the car. And then it comes and sits on the hood and just like, hey, I'm chilling here. I'm going to growl at you for a bit until you're scared. And then it Batman's out somehow, even though it's in a very open car park.
Yeah, which didn't even make that much sense to me, because Martha, like, the reason why she does this is because Martha keeps like passing on the messages from Lionel, because, remember, like, we've kind of like been able to forget this for like 3 episodes now, but Martha, it does work for Lionel, at least until this episode. It sounds like she might have got fired at the end of this episode.
Don't know if she did.
Like, they could tell us either happened, but like
she makes a stand and is like, "Hey, Lionel, it's up to you." So you decide. Well, Lionel decides that. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll let it slide because Martha's too good an employee.
It reminds him of his wife.
Yeah, that's not weird.
That's what he says to her. You remind me of my wife. It's almost like I'm talking to my wife. Well, yeah, you're blind, so I suppose you can imagine.
I bet Jonathan would love to know he said that.
Oh, I bet he would. Even Lex feels awkward walking in this conversation during the episode.
I mean, Jonathan's pretty insecure about this whole thing already.
Mm-hmm.
If he's like, hey, you remind Lionel of his wife, he's not going to take that well.
No, he's not. He's probably going to get his shotgun out.
Just the one?
I'm assuming he has a shotgun. I don't know. He's a farmer.
He definitely has a shotgun.
He's a farmer.
He's a farmer in the US. Of course he has a shotgun.
Yeah, even farmers in the UK sometimes have shotguns.
Most of them have shotguns.
And their mums. Yes. If you didn't get that reference, then shame on you. Shame on you all.
Yeah, you should just do better.
Anyway, so Clark's getting close to Kyla. They are getting all flirty. Kyla in wolf form. We don't technically know it's Kyla yet, but we're kind of just predicting it at this point because they keep setting up.
Clark's insistent that it's Joseph, the grandfather, but yeah, it's very clearly not.
And Joseph gets arrested for attempted murder because there was like a towel with like the victim's blood in his trash. And it's not really that much of a leap to just assume it's his niece that he lives with that's the one that's actually doing it. But Lex bails him out when Clark asks, and it's worth mentioning. So Clark takes him down to the caves, right? I don't even think we mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the paintings, but there's also a hexagonal slot. There's a
perfect for that key, for the key for the ship. Just
yes,
fits perfectly in this rock wall that's not been eroded for centuries.
Yeah. Also, the thing here that's also a bit weird is that if this is 500 years ago, this cave was like done. Then I'm like, what? Kryptonian technology didn't change in 500 years. Think about how much our technology's changed in 50 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, the fact that it's still this same hexagon shape is...
Look, Jor-El has visited here before. He knew the hexagon was here. So he was like, I'm going to make sure I use the hexagonal keys to send with this ship, just to be safe.
Or is it an octagonal key? Maybe octagonal.
I think it is octagonal, now you mention it. Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. So it's 2 more sides. Who cares?
It's a stupid slab of metal.
But Lex recognizes this because he had that disc in his possession for a while. So he immediately wants to save these caves because he wants to get to the bottom of this.
This is where our gap of watching has maybe become a bit of a flaw. We don't remember who has the key.
No, that's nothing to do with the gap because Joe Martin had it in the first episode we watched back.
Okay.
So we did see the key again, but we were legitimately couldn't remember who had it last. We know Lex lost it because he lost it in the tornado at the end of season 1,
And he was asking around about it.
Yeah, and we were trying to remember if Clark had it, but I don't think he does, because why wouldn't Clark just immediately go down with it and like put it in the slot?
He'd have been back that next night with the key immediately.
So I don't remember who has the key or where the key is right now. Obviously, it's going to pop back up at some point, but who knows? Maybe Lionel has it. Lionel may have it.
The Doctor who had it's dead. Maybe Lionel does have it.
I could see it because the Doctor was trying to show Lionel the ship and stuff. By the way, Lionel's still definitely blind. We thought maybe he wasn't anymore, but he definitely is, because Clark whooshed in the room and saved him. So.
Yeah, I was like pretty sure when the wolf comes into the room and he doesn't react immediately, like, oh shit, there's a wolf, which I think is a pretty reasonable reaction. There's no one else in the room. If you know, even if he's pretending, he's gonna react when there's a goddamn wolf in front of him.
He's very on edge as well. Before that,
definitely still blind.
So Lex at the end is even in the caves. You know, I think the episode ends. No, it doesn't end on him because it ends on Lana and Clark talking.
The second to last scene is Lex going back down. Yeah.
But he's looking about and he's like looking at all this foreshadowing and all the destiny of.
Yeah, I think the last thing of Lex is him pointing at the two-headed.
Yes.
Balance, good and bad, Lex and Clark.
So we should talk about the fact that Kyla learns Clark's secret. Well, enough of it. So basically, there's a bit of like a quake when they're in the cave halfway through the episode.
And she falls off a ledge that she looks like she's fallen like 3 feet, but Clark insists on super speeding down to catch her.
He catches her, and then this giant rock from the roof of the cave falls down, and he covers her, and it smashes all over his back. And he tries
instead of walking 3 feet to the side with her in her, have to smash the rock.
But he tries to pass it off as, oh, it was just adrenaline, I think. And she's like, no, it's not. And then she says, do you also shoot fire from your eyes? And she's joking, but Clark just gets awkward and goes, and she's like, wait a minute, that was a joke. You actually shoot fire from your eyes. So he never explains that he's an alien, that he came in a ship or anything like that.
She just assumes because she's got, oh, hey, you're the dude from the legend.
Yeah, she basically just says, oh, you're this, I keep wanting to say Namor, but that's a Marvel character. I didn't end in a K. It definitely ended in like an R, but whatever. Namal? Something like that? It was something like that.
It was Namek.
It does not matter.
Dragon Ball.
Maybe. I don't think it really does not matter. But
Namon.
She just Namon, that was it. She just goes with the flow, and like Clark.
Namek is Dragon Ball. That's what. Namek is where Piccolo's from in Dragon Ball. God damn it.
Clark finally has someone other than Pete, someone that he's attracted to that he can confide in, and the episode barely does anything with it because it just has to get on with everything else that's happening. So there's like no exploration of the fact that he's got a girlfriend for like 10 minutes that actually knows he's got superpowers. They don't do anything with it.
No, because she's dead before it matters.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. As soon as she found out, you're like, oh, she's definitely dead then by the end of the episode.
The best thing is, like, I know how long it is until Lana finds out, roughly.
I remember when Chloe finds out as well.
I know, like, okay, I know the point that... I remember what the 100th episode is very specifically, because, you know, they make a big deal because it's the 100th episode. A lot of shows do that, right? So I remember that episode. I know what that one is. I know how that one ends. I know Chloe knows before that. So I have like a rough timescape of where I know Chloe.
It's season 4. Like basically, Pete left in season 3. We need a friend who knows, so Chloe finds out early in season 4.
Yeah,
that's well. I don't know if it was early. I would guess early, but
they've really utilized Pete knowing though, haven't they? So they needed a friend to know.
Yeah, but Chloe actually tries to help solve cases when there's like a freak around. So at least there's more. Like she has more for plot.
She's more useful. Like as much as we make fun of this show and we make fun of Chloe partially because Allison Mack, let's be honest. She's a more useful character from a TV writing perspective, a much more useful character than Pete is.
And we always have this thing where Clark speeds off when she tells him something. At least we can get to a point where, hey,
she's like, go.
Yeah. So
and we don't have to have that scene every time of her looking around, be like, huh, where'd he go?
That's weird. I don't think there is a scene of it when it happens, but I really hope that when Lana someday eventually finds out. And I don't even remember when this happens. I just know it's going to, because of course it is. But when it eventually does, I really want Chloe to rub it in and be like, I knew first.
There like there are so many things I remember, just vague memory. I remember Lana in a car explosion. don't remember any context around it. I just remember a car explosion.
Sure.
But that means nothing in this show. Clark can just run in and grab her.
Yeah, the only thing I could say in addition to this is that at the end, like, okay, Lex buys up the project and the land.
No. He doesn't. He says he offers to buy him out. And Lionel's like, yeah, you got an ulterior motive if you're offering this. And then Lex just pulls up with a court order being like, they deemed it a historic site anyway, so screw you, no one can build it
But
anyway.
Lex still buys it though after that. He's like picked up the contract to protect it, so he still ends up with it.
But he's not paying as much to build it, and he doesn't pay all to Lionel of what he'd invested already.
But the thing that I was going to say though is that when this all goes down, technically this teenage girl's turned up dead. You know, she basically stabs herself when she jumps out of a really bad CG window when she's fleeing the scene from Lionel.
It is bad, yeah.
And she like turns back into, you know, a woman, and she's dying, and she like, you know, basically has some dying words with Clark. And I'm like, how is anyone going to explain this dead girl? What's
the easy and unfortunate answer is she's Native American. They don't give a shit that there's a dead girl.
I mean, that's a dark way to look at it, but I like, I guess they'd look at the wound and be like, okay, this is a piece of glass, but how did she end up with, like, they would think she was stabbed with this glass, presumably.
Probably, but if hypothetically you really wanted to just make this a story so they would stop looking, it's a teenager in the woods. She fell. There was some glass.
Naked?
They don't need to know that part. Well, hey, all right, okay. She's naked. Clark was around. He put his clothes back on.
If anything, everyone would be like, Clark was with the dead body, was he? Someone that he was seeing? Like, I'm just going to say, it looks really suspicious on Clark.
It does look a bit suspicious.
His jacket's... Because he puts his jacket around her, so his jacket's covered in her blood.
Yes, but Clark is an upstanding member of the community, and more importantly, white. So it's fine. Ethan knows him. He's just like, Clark's not gonna stab a girl.
Yeah, I'm going to point out Connor's being critical here when he says that. He's not giving his opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I guess we're done. I don't have it to add.
Like I said, what an episode.
Yeah, you said that afterwards, and I don't. Yeah, as far as drinking goes, obviously all the foreshadowing in the caves made him drink a couple times.
And I forgot that this was going to happen. And this is not going to be the only time they do this, because it was worse this time because they focused on all these elements. But these caves are such a recurring feature for at least like a season now. That
I think they're recurring way into season 4. I think it's not until the end of season 4 that they're kind of done.
I think it's end of season 4, start season 5 when he gets to the fortress. Where this, do you know what I'm really dreading now that I think about it? The Christopher Reeve episode.
Oh, there'll be some foreshadowing in that, don't you worry.
Because I love that they had Christopher Reeve in it. You know, it's not his. You know, obviously I'm dreading it because he's there. Made that very clear immediately. But I'm pretty sure that's the episode where he learns a lot about his Kryptonian stuff, and I just know they're gonna really go into it on that one, aren't they?
Well, that's where he learns the word Krypton, I'm sure. That's when he first hears that.
It is, yeah.
All right. Well, next time, if you were to guess based on what happens in this episode, what do you think the next episode's going to be?
Well, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's going to be completely unrelated.
Well, it's called Visage, and it is related because the photograph is of Whitney.
Okay.
It's the season 2 Whitney episode. Brace yourself.
I know what episode this is.
Yeah, I'm not going to read the description because it's like the full plot. Like this, for some reason, some of these old Smallvilles don't have.
If I want to summarize based off of what I remember of the first act,
Whitney shows up back from service.
Whitney shows up from presumed missing in action, which is where they leave it in this episode. He walked through a jungle. He went through some mad shit, and he survived. And he wanted to come back to see Lana.
The start of this description is just as Clark and Lana are making progress, and Clark has finally summoned up enough courage to ask Lana out on a date. Wait a minute. So, she's just said...
Dude was in love with a girl last episode.
He was in love with a girl last episode, and Lana just found out that her boyfriend of before is probably dead. She's still grieving, and he's like, this is the time.
This is the perfect opportunity.
This is the time to swoop in. Oh, yeah. Okay, I can't wait.
I forgot that part. But yeah, brief thing. Whitney shows back up, and wants to rekindle things with Lana. And even assuming that I didn't know that part there, which I didn't, Clark was never going to be too thrilled about that.
Oh no, I'm sure he'll be very upset. Anyway, that is the show. Thank you for joining us, everyone. That's been Suffering Smallville. We will see you next time for Visage. But you can support the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You get these way early. You know, we're like 5 months ahead on these for patrons because we're reposting season 1 first of all the old cut up reviews. So go check out Patreon if you want to. But of course, though, liking helps a lot. Helps people find the show. Helps people find the channel. All these things are important. And check out Mail Fuzz Movies while you're at it, the other YouTube channel we have where the movie podcasts live. There's a horror movie podcast, a science fiction movie podcast, and a general movie podcast over there. So go have a look. But that is the show. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Keep watching TV. Somebody save me.